Hey, Inspired Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers, John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for being with us again. It's a wonderful day, a beautiful Tuesday. And let me start by saying what I always say at our live streams, what I have been saying for years now. We're healthy, we're wealthy, we're whole, we're free. Healthy, wealthy, whole, free. The mantra of the Inspired live streams, the motto. I like it. So many people are using this as their daily morning ritual mantra, which I think is beautiful and important. Well, let me welcome you here in the live chat. Mike is here. September 26th, Monkey. Let me see. Oh, there's a discussion already going on. So I'm not going to get involved in that. I think Christine, the wise thumbs in the live chat, is also in here. So if you see Inspired commenting, that's Christine. And I wanted to come on today to speak about NESARA, GESARA, something that you might have come across over the years. One of the most pervasive stories out there. Absolutely huge. And for some reason, it just never goes fully away. Some people call it legislation. Some people call it a conspiracy theory. Some people call it already implemented behind the scenes. I want to today go into the facts, into the fiction, and see how we can separate the two. But before I do that, I something that is so in me. If I experience something that is wonderful, I want to share it with everybody I love. That's kind of, you can ask Christine. If I see something I love or have just tasted something I love, I'll call her immediately if she's not with me and let her know. A few days ago, Christine came to me and said, "Hey, listen, we've been Christine and I've been experimenting with a lot of things to improve our sleep because it's so important to us." Now, there's from radiation to sound to all kinds of nuisances that we have in our world today that impact our sleep. But she came to me and she said, I listened to Matt from Cultivate Elevate. We had him on a show. Remember Matt from Cultivate Elevate? He was talking about electroculture and other things. Great guy. And she saw a short by Matt where he talked about the static charge in various materials like polyester and other synthetic or semi-synthetic materials also in the bedding, right, in the sheets and everything. And he said, basically, the only way how it used to be is to go back to 100% linen bed sheets. And so Christine said, I listened to that. It just made total sense in my spirit. So I ordered the 100% linen bed sheets. Okay. So I was like, I trust my wife fully. So the bed sheets arrive. She puts them on. We go to sleep that night. I kid you not, it was the sleep of my life. It was so good. And I go on very little. I go on between, depending on the season, but for a maximum of 6 hours a day. But boy, I woke up and I was like, this is amazing. And then, she said, it's because if there are any synthetic materials in your clothing and in your bed sheets and everything, there's a static charge, and that will interfere with your ability to calm down. So we just wanted to share this with you. 100% linen. I'll show you this here. I was just so excited. Here it is on the screen. You can find it. Now, the price tag, don't get me wrong, $175. It's no, but to me, this was an investment that was so worth it. So we put the link in the description for you guys for absolutely amazing sleep. It's like, I can't even tell you how big the difference is, and it feels wonderful. Okay. Let's jump into NESARA, GESARA, my friends. What is NESARA, GESARA? For those of you who don't know, I'll pull up the screen and I'll pull up the Wikipedia, right? Because then we can go off of what the mainstream thinks about a certain thing. And put on my glasses here. The National Economic Security and Recovery Act is a set of proposed economic reforms for the United States suggested during the 1990s by private citizen Harvey Francis Barnard. Barnard claimed that the proposals, which included replacing the income tax with a national sales tax, abolishing compound interest on secured loans, and returning to a bimetallic currency, would result in 0% inflation and a more stable economy. The proposals were never introduced before Congress. Okay, so far, so good. This is the Wikipedia story. a guy had great ideas and it was never proposed to Congress. Now, shift over to the story that's been around the internet for almost 25 years now, and that I first heard of in 2001, I believe, late 2001, maybe early 2002. That's how long I've known about this. The story is that this amazing legislation actually was passed secretly in a secret congressional session behind closed doors, still under the Clinton administration in 2000, and then it was under force with the military stepping into the White House and basically forcing Clinton, or a clone of Clinton, let me put it that way. That's one of the variations of the stories, forcing him to sign this into law. And then it should have been implemented, right, in the whole structure of the United States and eventually globally, which how that would work, I don't know. But it should have been implemented, and 9/11 was used in order to destroy all evidence of this legislation and never actually see it through. Now, I will read to you, because to this day, people that come into, if you want to call it, the movement, and now I accidentally closed the link here, but I'll find it for you. People that come into the movement of truth-seeking and truth-speaking continually bring NESARA up, and they do it in a sensational way. Whole websites were created, a new financial system. This is what they're saying all the time. It's happening. And let me show you a tweet recently from a quite somebody who has quite the following, Jack Straw on Twitter. I'll read this to you and I'll show it to you on the screen. This is what they are saying NESARA is and will bring to the people. And then I go into a little bit of actual fact-finding mission here. It's just to get everybody on the same page as to what we're talking about here. Okay, here we have the tweet that came out just a few days ago. Okay, here we go. NESARA GESARA implements the following changes. Zero out all credit card, mortgage, and other bank debt due to illegal banking and government activities. This is the Federal Reserve's worst nightmare. A jubilee, or a forgiveness of debt, abolishes the income tax, abolishes the IRS. Employees of the IRS will be transferred into the U.S. Treasury National Sales Tax area. Creates a 14% flat rate, non-essential, new items only sales tax revenue for the government. In other words, food and medicine will not be taxed, nor will be used items such as old homes. Increases benefits to senior citizens. Returns constitutional law to all courts and legal matters. Reinstates the original title of nobility amendment. Hundreds of thousands of Americans under the control of foreign powers will lose their citizenship, be deported to other countries, and barred from re-entry for the remainder of their life. And millions of people will soon discover their college degrees are now worthless paper. Establishes new presidential and congressional elections within 120 days after NESARA's announcement. The interim governments will cancel all national emergencies and return us back to constitutional law. Monitors elections and prevents illegal election activities of special interest groups. Creates a new U.S. Treasury rainbow currency backed by gold, silver, and platinum, precious metals, and ending the bankruptcy of the United States initiated by Franklin Roosevelt in 1933. Forbids the sale of American birth certificate records as chattel property, bonds by the U.S. Departments of Transportation. Initiates new U.S. Treasury bank system in alignment with constitutional law. Eliminates the Federal Reserve System. During the transition period, the Federal Reserve will be allowed to operate side by side of the U.S. Treasury for 1 year in order to remove all Federal Reserve notes from the money supply. Restores financial privacy. Restrains all judges and attorneys in constitutional law. Retains. Seizes all aggressive U.S. government military actions worldwide. Establishes peace throughout the world. Releases enormous sums of money for humanitarian purposes. Enables the release of over 6,000 patents of suppressed technologies that are being withheld from the public under the guise of national security, including free energy devices, anti-gravity, and sonic healing machines. Because President Clinton's clone had no interest in signing NESARA into law on October 10, 2000, under orders from U.S. military generals, the elite naval SEALs and Delta Force stormed the White House and under gunpoint forced Bill Clinton to sign NESARA. Okay, so this is as far as these stories have gone, and there's plenty of variations of this. Let's use and apply some logic here. because this is the ultimate hopium story. And for those who think, for those who have kind of come into the field of exploration of truth and truth seeking, they see this and it just goes into your spirit and says, yes, that's what we need. Yes, that's what we want. Now let's rewind to the supposed Congress of 1999 or 2000 that supposedly passed this bill in a secret session, which I don't know why, but to a substantial degree, it's the same Congress or similar Congress in terms of who the representatives were, who the congressmen and congresswomen and senators were, as the Congress in 2001 that passed the Patriot Act, which is the exact opposite, if you will, of NESARA. So you explain to me how a legislative body apparently, supposedly, puts this dream legislation into law 1 year, and the next year, granted there were elections, but it wasn't like whole Congress was swapped out, not at all. And the next year, this legislative body passes in secret a legislation that is the exact opposite. It's like black and white, good and evil, exact opposite. This was in 2000. This is before this great awakening wave that we're seeing now has happened. This is when all of the subjects we talk about today so openly were fringe subjects. You had a few people talk about this. You had the Alex Joneses of the world, you had the David Icks of the world, and you had a few others, Jordan Maxwell's and the a few others, G. Edward Griffin, and there was a movement, but it was fairly small. It was absolutely not even close to the mainstream. This is one of those hopium stories to me that is so good that it keeps people from taking action in their own lives, because it's this white hat savior story. And if you can see, it comes in various shapes and it adjusts and it adapts to the current state of things. But make no mistake, a lot of these quote unquote movements are psyops, and they are actually created to pacify the population and keep them from making significant and meaningful changes. Bless you, my love. Significant changes in their own lives and taking things into their own hands and actually doing what needs to be done in their lives. Reading this and having read God knows how many articles on this and having seen God knows how many videos on this, there is not a single shred of evidence that would point to this fantastic story. Are there secret closed-door sessions of Congress? Yes, there are. Are there even semi-secret or secret semi-legislative bodies? Yes, there are. There are sessions. There are secret courts. The FISA court is not an open court. There are secret military courts. All these things exist. But if you look at the state of the world today, and if you look at what we're seeing in the economy, in the financial system, how all this plays out, does this sound anything like what I just read to you? It doesn't. Because, and here's my conclusion of this, this is a wonderful, wonderful psyop created by by entities within the government. Let me put it that way. Whether it's the intelligence community, doesn't really matter. And it's created to keep this, and here's how they keep that going. They know that people, the longer a state of, or the more oppressive and controlling a government gets, the more the people feel the sense of rebellion coming up within them. The more restrictions and laws that are put into place, like the Patriot Act, that it created, for example, it made flying, which used to be a very pleasant experience, actually I liked it, into a horror show where you're treated like the worst criminal every single time you walk through an airport. So they know this. They study people. They see this. So what do? They create something that looks like a good rebellion, something that looks like a huge change, but doesn't actually encourage you or inspire you to do much or to change much. It says, no, it's already taken care of. The white hats, they got it. And the NESARA is every, I mean, for years and years and years. You know how often I heard this story? It's coming this weekend. This weekend it's being implemented. The banks are going to close, and in the background, the new financial system is coming up. And there are new kids jumping on the bandwagon every single week because they love the stories. It sounds so great. And they get military insiders told them it's already happened. Financial insiders come up every few weeks and post these videos and say, oh, well, yeah, it's happening. They wear in a suit and a tie, and they look like ex-elite banker. It's finally happening. NESARA implemented. Payouts coming next week. Quantum financial system. Give me a break. These are very, very carefully controlled psyops. Because what do they never say, those bankers? They never say, change your own life. Discover what the truth really is. Go within. Align your values with your actions. Step away from things that you know to be wrong and do things you know to be right. Begin becoming self-reliant, responsible. Begin developing yourself spiritually. Begin thinking in different ways. That's not the message. The message is, we got this, don't you worry. And they're dragging this out, and you see the preliminary end date of this dragging it out is 2030. That's a preliminary end date. That's how long they need to keep the population semi-pacified, because all the systems, the latest by 2030, are supposed to be implemented. That, however, my friends, is not a conspiracy theory. That you can read up on in all the documents that these organizations, with the UN as the flagship organization that's up front, and their various sub-organizations, are putting out every single day. The UN Agenda 2030, the World Health Organization, International Health Regulations. It sounds much more boring. It's much more boring to read than NESARA, GESARA. That's exciting. Now, reading the 300 plus amendments of the International Health Regulations, not as exciting, but very impactful. Very impactful. You read about the new climate change legislations that are being implemented everywhere. You read about the new cashless rules. You read about CBDC, and I'm not talking about some website somewhere. Go for the .gov. Go for the UN websites. Go for the central bank official websites and read what they're saying, because they're actually the ones doing the doing. So I know this is, for some people, this is a what I'm doing is wrong, because it gives people hope. It gives people a vision. But that is hopium. Hopium is not hope. It is literally an addictive, and they know this, by the way. Hopium is an addictive, now digital substance. And they know how to make the perfect mix to keep you just engaged enough in these stories, but not actionable enough. And this is why a lot of times our message is not as popular as all the other messages, or many of the other messages, because it requires personal responsibility, because we say, we are not the saviors. There's no white hat saviors out there that are going to change your life. You have to do it. And by incrementally, positively, and consciously changing our lives, each and every one of us, and positively really envisioning a new future, and putting our money where our mouth is, and putting our actions where our mouth is, we are actually creating something new. One spirit, one soul at a time, one human being at a time. And we are actually contagious to those around us, because it becomes a movement when people see the positive effects that it's having on your own life. And that is much more powerful. Do I believe that everything that is being lined out in these fake NESARA leaks is possible and will come about at one point? Yes, because I believe we will create it. I believe we will create all the circumstances, and we will create the actual thought processes, and we will create the environment where this will happen, and where this will be the most logical thing to do. Because it isn't logical that we continue to participate in our own enslavement. It doesn't make any sense. But also, part of these last operations over the last years that have been out there, you have to have discernment, and you have to tune in with your spirit. And you have to ask yourself this. And this was my biggest quarrel with the whole Q movement, was the slogan, trust the plan. Whose plan? What plan? There is value in what has come out. I've said this many times. There is a lot of value in the information and in the digging that people have done. So overall, it has had a positive effect. But the trust the plan story, and we got this, and watch what happens. What is that? It's passivity. It's keeping people passive. And this is the last thing that you want to be. You don't want to be the extra in your life. You don't want to be the passenger in your life. You want to be the captain of your life, steering the ship at the rudder with divine co-creative help, of course. That's the imperative here. So when you come across these things, and there will be more, use discernment and use logic too. Just go back. If you don't believe me, go back and watch and research who was in Congress around the year 2000, who was in the Senate, who was in the House, what else did they decide on? What other legislations did they pass? And would NESARA even make sense within the context of these legislations? And let me put it also this way. This whole story that a president was forced under, with a gun pointed at him, that would nullify any legislation anyways. So I kind of wanted to clean up with this, because believe it or not, we get these messages frequently, and we get, especially a lot of times, especially the younger kids, all hyped up about it. And they are literally building their life around this new NESARA quantum financial system that is activated this weekend. It's finally the weekend where it's activated. I'm sorry for the cynicism. And if I will be proven wrong one day, I'm the first one to admit that. But for now, I'd much rather bank on a community that we're creating. I'd much rather count on the friendships, the kinships. I count on my own abilities, my own discernment, and my willingness to take responsibility for myself, my family, and take action steps every single day for self-reliance, for independence, true independence. Alrighty, my friends. Thank you so much for tuning in. I can just tell you, if I wanted to bring this up again because I was so surprised. The whole sleep thing, the 100% linen bed sheets, I mean, just absolutely amazing. I was so surprised, positively surprised. I want to thank Matt from Cultivate Elevate also for his wonderful research that he does on his channel. Check it out, Cultivate Elevate. He's always very informative and gives, again, this to me, he's one of the real guys, because he's actually saying, here's what you can change today. Here's what we know now. Do this and this and this and watch what happens. This is what I love. This is exactly the kind of inspiration that we all need. Things that we can do with what we have right now. All right. Much love. Many blessings to you. We love you. We appreciate you. We'll be back with you again very, very soon.